There's a quiet truth we often forget in the noise of our daily lives. We treat our lives like a building, something we construct, something linear with a blueprint and a finish line. We stack accomplishment on top of accomplishment, hoping the structure will be impressive enough to stand. But what if we've gotten the metaphor all wrong? What if your life isn't a building at all? What if it's a garden? A garden is a living, breathing, ever-changing ecosystem. It's not about rigid construction, it's about gentle, consistent cultivation. And this changes everything because it means you are not an architect. You are a gardener. And every single day, from the moment you wake up to the moment you close your eyes, you are holding a packet of seeds in your hand. The question that defines your future is not, what am I building? The question is, what am I planting? Every thought you allow to take root is a seed. That recurring worry about the future, you just planted a vine of anxiety that will slowly wrap itself around your peace. That critical voice you use against yourself? You just scattered seeds of doubt that will choke your confidence before it can even sprout. But the opposite is also beautifully true. That moment of gratitude you genuinely feel, you've planted a seed for joy. The courage to speak your truth, even with a shaky voice. You've planted a seed for self-respect. The choice to forgive, even when it's hard. You are tilling the soil for future freedom. We often stand in our own garden, frustrated by the weeds of our circumstances, wondering how they got there, without realizing we've been carelessly dropping their seeds for years. We are shocked by the harvest of exhaustion or loneliness or discontent, forgetting that we ourselves planted it, thought by thought, habit by habit, choice by choice. The most powerful part of this metaphor is the understanding that a garden operates on a delay. You don't plant a carrot seed today and eat a carrot tomorrow. There's a season of waiting. There is a period where your work is invisible, happening beneath the soil. This is the season of faith. You have to trust that the seeds of discipline you plant today will one day yield the fruit of freedom from freedoms, yours of freedom. That the seeds of patience you sow in a relationship will one day yield the fruit of deep connection. That the seeds of learning you diligently water will one day yield the fruit of wisdom. We have been conditioned to view our lives through the lens of architecture. We speak of building a career, constructing a resume, and laying a foundation for the future. This metaphor implies a linear process with a fixed blueprint, a final product, and a predictable finish line. It is a model of rigidity and control. But life is not rigid. It is organic, unpredictable, and teeming with unseen potential. The architecture metaphor fails us because it cannot account for the seasons of our soul, the periods of dormancy, the unexpected growth, and the beautiful, wild chaos of genuine human experience. When we see our life as a building, a crack in the wall feels like a catastrophic structural failure. A delayed project feels like a permanent flaw in the design. We become frantic builders, trying to force our reality to conform to a rigid plan, terrified of any deviation. The paradigm shift to seeing your life as a garden is one of profound liberation. A garden is not a static monument. It is a living, breathing, collaborative relationship between the gardener and the forces of nature. It is a system of cycles, seasons, and continuous, often invisible, growth. As the gardener of your life, you are not tasked with forcing a specific outcome through sheer will. You are called to cultivate. Your role is to prepare the soil of your heart and mind, to plant the right seeds, to water them with consistent action, to pull the weeds of negative influences, and to trust in the natural, divine timing of growth. This perspective immediately dissolves the pressure of perfection. A gardener does not despair when a seed does not sprint to a mature tree overnight. They understand the necessity of the process. They know that growth happens beneath the surface long before it is visible to the eye. A building is either complete or it is not, but a garden is always in a state of becoming. It is never finished, it is always alive, always changing and always offering new opportunities for cultivation, new chances to plant something beautiful where something once withered. This is not a passive metaphor. It is an active and responsive one. It calls for presence, patience, and a deep trust in the process. It means you stop trying to build a fortress against the storms of life and instead learn to cultivate ecosystem resilient enough to bend with the wind, to be nourished by the rain, and to regenerate after the frost. You are not here to construct an imposing but lifeless edifice. You are here to tend a magnificent, one-of-a-kind garden that only you can bring into being. The most profound power you possess is also the most subtle, the power of the seed. Every single day, you are walking through the fertile field of your life with a pouch full of seeds in your hand. These seeds are your thoughts, your words, and your smallest, most repetitive actions. We often dismiss them as insignificant. A fleeting moment of jealousy, a muttered complaint, a 5-minute scroll through a social media feed fueled by comparison. We think it's just a thought, or it's just a few minutes. But in the economy of a garden, there's no just. Every single seed carries within it the genetic blueprint for a future harvest. That seed of jealousy, when watered by your attention, will grow into a thorny thicket of resentment that blocks your view of your own blessings. That seed of complaint will sprout into a vine of perpetual dissatisfaction that chokes your joy. The seed of a mindful breath, planted in a moment of stress, can grow into a tree of deep-rooted peace. The seed of a courageous no, planted to protect your time, can blossom into a beautiful boundary of self-respect. You are planting whether you are aware of it or not. The default is not an empty garden. The default is a garden growing whatever seeds the wind and your unconscious habits have scattered. Passivity is not neutrality. It is permission for weeds to take over. This is why consciousness is the gardener's most essential tool. You must become a watchful, intentional sower before you drop a seed. You must pause and ask, do I want a harvest of this? Is this the fruit I wish to live with in my future? The thought that says, I am not enough, is a seed. The choice to speak a word of encouragement, even when you don't feel like it, is a seed. The decision to take one small step toward a goal, despite your fear, is a seed. You are the only one who can choose which seeds to drop into the soil of your today. And while you cannot control the weather or the exact timing of the harvest, this one law is irrevocable. You will always, always reap what you have sown. The garden does not negotiate. It simply reveals in time the contents of the seeds you entrusted to it. The universe operates on an unwavering, non-negotiable law of cause and effect that is as reliable as the force of gravity. In the context of your life's garden, this principle is absolute. The harvest is a perfect mirror of the seeds. You cannot deceive the soil. You cannot negotiate with the seasons. You will never, ever harvest apples from a thorn bush, nor will you find sweet strawberries growing from seeds of neglect. The outcome is always a direct revelation of the input. This is a truth that transcends wishful thinking, positive affirmations, or desperate hope. You may stand in your garden, looking at the tangled weeds of anxiety and lack, and fervently wish for a harvest of peace and abundance. But wishing does not change the harvest. Only replanting does. The garden is brutally honest. It does not care about your intentions. It only responds to your actions. It does not listen to your excuses. It only produces based on the genetic code of the seeds you have sown. If you are harvesting strained relationships, you must look back to the seeds of gossip, neglect, or unresolved anger you planted. If you are harvesting a body that feels weak and unhealthy, you must examine the seeds of poor nutrition and inactivity you sowed. If you are harvesting a mind cluttered with fear, you must identify the seeds of consuming negative media and entertaining catastrophic thoughts. The beautiful and daunting clarity of this principle is that it places the power and the responsibility squarely in your hands. You are not a victim of a random harvest. The evidence of your past choices is displayed all around you in the present moment. Your current reality is the living catalog of what you have been planting, often unconsciously, for weeks, months, and years. Yours. This is not a reason for self-condemnation, but for empowered awakening. The garden is always giving you feedback. The harvest is its constant, truthful report card. A disappointing harvest is not a life sentence. It is a critical diagnosis. It is the garden's way of saying, the seeds you are using are not yielding the fruit you desire. It is time to change your seeds. The connection between what you plant and what you reap is the ultimate justice and the ultimate grace in the universe. It means your future is not a lottery. It is a direct, predictable result of the choices you make today. One of the most challenging aspects of tending the garden of your life is the inherent delay between planting and harvest. In our modern world of instant gratification, we have lost touch with the natural rhythm of growth. We drop a seed into the soil and expect to see a sprout by afternoon. When we don't, we conclude the seed was bad. the soil is infertile, or we are simply not meant to be gardeners. This impatience is the downfall of many beautiful potential harvests. True growth, the kind that is deep-rooted and sustainable, happens largely in the dark beneath the surface of visible results. This is the season of faith. When you plant a seed of discipline, choosing to study instead of scroll, to save instead of spend, to practice instead of procrastinate, you will not see the tree of mastery the next day. All you see is the empty soil of your sacrifice. It feels like nothing is happening. This is the critical period where most people give up, failing to understand that beneath the surface, a powerful root system is establishing itself. This hidden network of roots, your character, your resilience, your deepening understanding, is what will eventually provide unshakable stability when the winds of challenge blow. The seed must first expend all its energy pushing roots downward before it can ever hope to push a shoot upward toward the sun. Your journey is the same. The time of waiting, the period where your efforts seem to yield no visible reward, is not wasted time. It is the most crucial phase of development. This is when your commitment is being tested and solidified. This is when you learn to trust the process, not just the outcome. You must learn to water your dreams with faith on the days you cannot yet see any green. You must trust that the laws of the garden are still in effect, even when you are standing in what looks like an empty field. The harvest is not late. It is being prepared. The fruit is not withholding itself. It is gathering the sweetness that only time and patience can provide. To try to rush this process is to rip a young plant from the ground, ensuring it will never bear fruit. The delay is not a design flaw. It is a divine feature. It ensures that when the harvest finally appears, you have the mature character and deep roots necessary to hold onto it, to steward it well, and to enjoy its fruit without it destroying you. Perhaps the most hopeful and empowering truth about the garden is that it is a living system, and living systems are inherently capable of renewal. The soil of your soul does not have a single growing season. It's not a one-chance proposition where a failed crop dooms the land forever. This is the beautiful grace of the metaphor. You can always, at any moment, begin planting something new. The past harvest does not have to dictate the future one. You are not permanently defined by the weeds of poor choices or the barren patches of past neglect. You may look at your life right now and see a tangled overgrowth of anxiety, a plot thinned by apathy, or a flower bed choked with the resentment you've allowed to grow. The temptation is to see this as your permanent landscape, to believe this is just who I am. But that is a lie of the highest order. You are not the overgrowth. You are the gardener. And a gardener's work is never finished. Today, right now, you can pick up a new packet of seeds. You can decide to plant a single seed of forgiveness where bitterness has grown. You can plant a seed of courage in the soil where fear has been the dominant crop. You can choose to water a dream you thought had long since withered. This is not about erasing the past. The old soil with its compost of failures and lessons remains. But that compost can become the very nutrient-rich foundation for a stronger, more resilient future harvest. Your past mistakes are not permanent stains. They are fertilizer for wisdom. The process is simple, though not always easy. It requires you to consciously uproot the weeds you no longer want. This is the work of stopping a negative thought pattern, of ending a toxic habit, of letting go of a grudge. Then you must deliberately sow the seeds you do want. This is the work of a daily affirmation, a consistent act of self-care, a deliberate practice of gratitude. The garden does not judge you for your past neglect. It only responds to your present care. It is always ready to cooperate with your intention to cultivate beauty. So, if you do not like what is growing in your life, do not curse the garden. Do not abandon it. And do not resign yourself to a harvest you do not want. Simply change the seeds. Your next thought, your next word, your very next action is a new seed in your hand. Choose it with intention, plant it with hope, and trust that the faithful sun will cooperate with your new decision to grow